Go ahead, turn it on. Let her get started. Are you recording?
Make it work, right?
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We'll have the clerk call the roll, please.
Recording in progress.
And if we could have Chairman Nass listed as excused. It was her intention to Zoom the meeting tonight, but he didn't want to chair it in any case. But he did just text me and say he's having technical problems and he's probably in a bar. And let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor Milkey, would you lead us tonight? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask you to remain standing for a moment. This really kind of marks the beginning of our 2-year terms with the committee assignments. So if we could take just a minute to reflect on the important business and the duties we have on behalf of the people of Jefferson County. Thank you. Please be seated. And we're in certification?
We're in compliance, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The next is approval of the agenda. What I would like to do, because we have a significant number of our law enforcement community with us tonight, and I'm thinking they might want to get home sooner rather than later, I would like to move item 12, the Law Enforcement Emergency Management Committee presentation, up behind the number 9, the public comment. So unless there's some objection, let's try to do that. Okay. Second. Okay. Is there a motion for that? And a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the April 4th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion or correction? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. And a motion to approve the April 19th, 2022 meeting minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Communications.
On your desk, you should have the green treasurer's monthly report. We will have some retirement recognitions. And then we also have the notice of public hearing for the zoning committee, which is May 19th, 2022, starting at 7 p.m. right here in room 205. And then I wanted to also announce the roll call. We have 28 present and 2 absent.
Which brings us to the treasurer's monthly report. Should be on your, it's in your packets. I'm not sure what color it is. Green, it looks like. I think it's always green. And then retirement recognition. Terry Palm will be coming up to the podium to present some retirement recognition.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you that are new, quarterly we try to recognize our retirees that occurred the previous quarter. Today we have 6 individuals I'd like to announce, and I know 2 of them are here. I'm going to ask them to come forward in just a little bit. First, Lynn Riggs was a custodian in our central services office here at the courthouse. Many of you may have seen her as she was often in and out of a lot of places, doing a very good job. One thing I like to just mention, I know she's not here, but I know a lot of employees appreciate it. She would like leave a little candy bar on people's desks and go around, and it was always a nice treat to have in the morning. She wasn't with us very long, just a little bit over 2.5 years, but she is missed here in the courthouse. Thomas Miller from the Highway Department was with the county a little bit over 20 years. He was in a variety of roles. He started out in our Highway Department, went to our Parks Department for a little bit, and then retired from the Highway Department in February. The third person tonight I'd like to mention is Jennifer Zink. She was with the county for over 26 years in our Child Support Department, and really had grown with that position, grown in that department in a number of positions, just as that department had changed so much over the time that she was here. The fourth individual is Michael Williams, who was a deputy in our patrol at the Sheriff's Department for almost 29 years, just shortly over 28.9 years. And with that, I have 2 others that I'm going to ask to come forward. I have first Rose Engelhardt. I have what I asked was for her supervisor to put together a little bit of something about Rose, and so I'd like to read that first. And Rose, then I'm going to give you this email because I think it's really neat. So the supervisor went to her staff. She worked in our economic support as an economic support specialist for over 22 years. But the supervisor asked staff, you know, she's being recognized tonight. What would you have to say about her? And the supervisor said, before I even got back to my desk, she had a lot of emails coming in. So I'm wondering if you can guess who's saying what on here, but one individual, always a hard worker and had some good stories. She was passionate and dedicated to help both our customers and staff. Rose is a great co-worker and was very knowledgeable at her position. Rose always had someone who was willing to help, was always someone who was willing to help out, a great source of knowledge, and overall a great teammate. It has been a pleasure working with you all these years. Thank you for sharing all your experience. We miss you so much. You were a phenomenal ES worker, an incredible children first worker, dependable and hardworking. And this one you'll probably know. I'm hoping I can say it right. My sweet Rosie Bagosi, you truly were a blessing to Jefferson County. I miss your knowledge and spunk around here. Thank you for all your dedicated years serving Jefferson County. And finally, in this job, we are always reaching for the skill of interpreting policy and how to apply that skill to help best serve the consumer. Rose had found that skill and applied it to each consumer that she served. Rose was truly dedicated and loved, and she was already missed and will continue to be someone we hold in our memories with a smile and laugh. So, Rose, if you'd like to come forward, please. I'm going to share that with you. You can keep that. It's a lot of nice things. And then we have a certificate. Sure you don't want to see.
I just get too nervous.
Thank you. And the last individual tonight is Dan Zastra from the Highway Department. Dan had been with the highway for just 30 years. And he, over 30 years, many of you know the Highway Department changed quite a bit too. I'm sure Dan has a number of stories he could tell. But he started there March 16th in 1992, sorry. He was a patrolman, worked primarily on State Highway 26 South, did everything that the highway does, plowing, snow, mowing, highway maintenance, also was an equipment operator too, so it had the opportunity to help out on the road building crews in the summer, hauling blacktop, working on the pulverizer. I know I had just a few minutes to chat with he and his wife when before the meeting started, and he mentioned, I asked him, so is he going to be coming back part-time? And he said no. He's helping out his son in his business. I know he enjoys riding his Harley, which when he comes up here, you'll see he's got the band around his face from being out today. Fishing, camping, and spending time with his wife. And I think I actually got to know Beth a little bit better than I did Dan throughout his time here. So with that, Dan, if you'd like to come up.
Thank you.
And a certificate. And you're sure, did you want to say a few things?
I'm fine.
All right.
Okay, I believe that completes retirement, which brings us to the zoning committee notice of public hearing for May 19th, 2022. That would be at 7 p.m. in this boardroom. Mr. Waymar, do we have any public comment registered tonight?
Only of the general meeting tonight, so at the end.
Okay. Yes, we're moving up Law Enforcement Emergency Management Committee. Supervisor Morris, I believe, wishes to come up to the podium. Well, of course.
For this resolution, it will be necessary to have Chief Deputy Jeff Parker explain the parameters of what we're doing here.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Morris. Before I begin with the discussion on the award that is going to be presented tonight, I would like to just take a few moments to remind everybody that the week of May 15th through the 21st is Law Enforcement Memorial Week. And here in Jefferson County, for those of you that don't know, we had two officers that paid the ultimate sacrifice. Fort Atkinson Police Department, back in April 9th of 1968, lost an officer by the name of Officer David McKee. David McKee tried saving a young man who had jumped into the Rock River. And when doing so, Officer David McKee lost his life. Officer McKee paid the ultimate sacrifice trying to save this young boy, and for that we will never forget. Here for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, back on February 8th, 1902, Deputy William Cooper, while responding to a domestic abuse in the city of Waterloo, was shot to death at point blank range. Deputy Cooper paid the ultimate sacrifice for his community, and for that we will never forget. On May 18th, the Jefferson County Chiefs and Sheriffs Association will hold their annual ceremony on the courthouse lawn on the northeast corner at 11:30 in the morning. If you have the desire and wish to attend, our speaker this year will be State Senator John Jagler. If you wish to be there, we would love to have you and welcome that opportunity. So with that being said, I would like to just simply announce that this is the first time the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department is honored to be before the Jefferson County Board to introduce Jefferson County Policy, the Ward and Recognition Policy, Policy 135. The purpose of this policy is to establish a procedure where employees can be recognized for various acts that bring credit upon themselves, the County of Jefferson, and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. It is the policy of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office to formally recognize the outstanding service or acts of bravery by its employees in the performance of their duties. Formal awards will consist of pins to be worn on the duty uniform, their Class A. The employee will also be awarded a medal or plaque for that act. The office acknowledges that employees provide a valuable service to the community on a daily basis by performing their jobs as public servants. Employees are oftentimes presented with circumstances that may compel them to take action above and beyond what is required or considered normal. These exceptional acts are what the office wishes to recognize. The definition of the Life Saving Award. Awarded to any department member, whether on or off duty, who is responsible for saving human life through the rendering of medical aid or other actions that directly contribute to the saving of a human life. This award is in the form of a medal or a plaque, certificate, or commendation bar. It is not only our privilege to honor our deputies, but it is also our privilege to honor our nursing staff that was part of the team that saved this young man's life. With that, I turn it over to Supervisor Morris.
Mr. Chair, I bring before you Resolution 2022-13, recognizing life-saving efforts of LPN Brenda Breedlow, Deputy Jacob Danner, Deputy Zachary Cook, Deputy Jonathan Olszewski, did I say it correctly? Deputy Samuel Pennington, and Deputy Tanner Schrader. Whereas on June 14, the corrected date is June 14, a 41-year-old inmate of Jefferson County Jail tried to harm himself within a pod. To increase his likelihood of success, he tied a bed sheet around the cell door to prevent jail staff from entering his cell. And whereas Deputy Zachary Cook, assigned to pod control, documented at 22:13 hours that everything in a pod was safe and secure. And between 22:14 hours and 22:15 hours, video surveillance indicated that this inmate was preparing a noose using a bed sheet, and at 22:18:50 hours, the inmate began to hang himself. And whereas at 22:24 hours, Deputy Cook observed from the pod the inmate hanging from a bedsheet noose within his cell, and at 22:24:50 hours, 26 seconds later, other responding deputies entered APON and started life-saving measures on this inmate. And whereas Deputy Danner, Schrader, and Pennington worked as a team to cut down the inmate from outside the cell bars because the inmate had tied the cell bars shut with a bedsheet. And whereas once access was gained, Deputy Pennington determined that the inmate was non-breathing and pulseless. CPR was immediately started. Deputies were assisted by LPN Brenda Breedlow. A bag valve mask was assembled, and Deputy Danner provided rescue breaths. LPN Breedlow was quick to attach the automated external defibrillator pads to the inmate. Deputy Jonathan Olszewski provided stabilization and assisted in keeping an open airway for the inmate during the CPR process. And whereas the AED indicated shock advised, meaning the AED did not read a pulse from the inmate, the AED was activated, but no breathing or heartbeat was detected. Deputies rotated duties to allow continuous administration of chest compressions and rescue breaths. At 22:30:27, LPN Breedlow was able to obtain a heartbeat, and the inmate began breathing on his own. There were between 6 and 8 rounds of CPR administered by the deputies and 1 AED activation. And whereas the Jefferson EMS arrived on scene at 22:32:12 and took over care for the inmate, he was immediately taken to Mercy Hospital in Janesville, where he fully recovered. He then went to Winnebago Mental Health for more treatment for his emotional well-being. And whereas this inmate has reached out to the sheriff's office and expressed his sincere appreciation to the jail staff and registered nurse for saving his life. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff Paul Milbrath hereby asks that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors formally recognize the above individuals by adopting this recognition and awarding the above individuals within the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office Life-Saving Award. Now therefore be it resolved that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors formally recognizes the actions of Deputies Danner, Cook, Olszewski, Pennington, Schrader, and LPN Breedlow, who are directly involved in life-saving efforts to resuscitate an inmate of the Jefferson County Jail who was pulseless and non-breathing for 8.5 minutes. Their efforts resulted in saving the life of this person and demonstrate professionalism, exemplary service, and dedication to duty, which reflect great credit upon themselves, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, and Jefferson County. Be it further resolved that the above individuals be awarded the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office Life-Saving Award. Fiscal note, adopting this resolution will have no fiscal impact. So I'd like to move that we pass this resolution and recognize the valiant efforts of these individuals.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? I guess I would like to say simply that it's great to see when we have employees in law enforcement that act in such a way as it was read tonight. It's presence of mind and professionalism is good to hear. So, motion on the floor. All in favor of passing this resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I didn't think there'd be any opposed. The motion carries. Okay, which brings us back now at item 10, annual reports. We have first the Economic Development Consortium, Deb Reinbold.
And she'll be doing it online tonight, sir.
Hi there. Let me see if I can share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
You're good, Deb. Go ahead.
Great. Well, thank you. It's great to be with you all tonight. My name is Deb Reinbold, and I'm the Interim Executive Director for Thrive Economic Development and Jefferson County Economic Development Consortium. Tonight, we'll review our work from the last annual report year, which spans September 1st of 2020 through August 31st of 2021. We'll look at highlights of activities from September 1st, 2021 to the present, and we'll talk a little bit about what we anticipate going forward for this year. Let's start with a quick overview of who we are, because that sets the tone for what we do. We're here to stimulate private sector investments. Why? A few important reasons. To create opportunities for residents that should result in rising household income levels over time, because this metric is the single most important measure of a healthy economy. If income levels rise over time consistently in our communities, we should have a vibrant local economy. Another measure of interest, rising tax base. That supports government work. Whether it's the public school system or the police force, or ensuring roads are safe, municipal governments need funds to support their important work. Stimulating private sector investments should help that cause. Lastly, although a highly subjective term, this work also impacts quality of life for our residents, and that matters greatly to all who call this area home. Our work is supported not only by the county, but also financially and philosophically through many private sector organizations located within our region. Government assistance, what does that look like? It covers a lot of ground, but for all the same reason, to enhance and advance our competitiveness. We've helped start as well as administer local loan funds. We provide assistance, guidance, and counsel on land assembly or industrial park development. We often serve as the facilitator or engager in municipal incentive negotiations. We bring developers to municipalities that are a match for the types of development they want. We filled in and provided hands-on economic development support when municipalities lose their local economic development person. We're the point person who works with every local municipality to respond to requests for information for highly specific site searches and attraction projects. We brainstorm with municipalities to find solutions to their development barriers. And that's why we're here, to help our communities become the most competitive they can be. Because when they win, we all win. Within the past reporting year, it was still pandemic pandemonium, but our activity levels were higher than any other year since inception. Some meetings needed to be done virtually. Many of our food and beverage partners weren't letting outsiders in, but that's okay. We reached out, asked questions, and worked through solutions. And we thanked every one of these businesses for their ongoing investments in our two-county region. Now let's talk about outcomes. Starting with 2020-2021 opportunity pipeline, we've had a very busy year. We managed 89 investment opportunities in this past reporting period, and as you can see, over 50% of those were manufacturers, and manufacturing includes food and beverage sector businesses. We saw a lot of activity in services, in transportation and warehousing, and also in agribusiness. We've counted 22 wins in this reporting period, even though not all were press releases, and that's really important for me to say. Sometimes a win is just helping a business secure financing, or helping a business find an ideal building or site, or connecting a business with entities that can provide the incentives they need to close the gap and do the deal. Sometimes it's as simple as helping a business to renegotiate a lease so it can remain in business in their desired location. At the beginning of this endeavor, in the fall of 2016, we told the founding board members that a startup economic development organization generally takes a good 7 to 10 years to get established in an area. We've recently wrapped up our 5th year of operation and are seeing the fruits of our labors. As this rhythm is firmly established, local business owners know who to call, they know us. And our outreach and marketing is resulting in more businesses and consultants finding us, giving us more opportunities to assist more businesses to invest in our region. And these numbers are going to continue to rise. A breakdown of these wins: 8 of these projects were in manufacturing sector, which includes food and beverage, 5 in services, 3 in agribusiness, 2 in retail restaurants, 2 were mixed use real estate, 1 was transportation and warehousing, and 1 was a housing development project. Trends over the first 5 years. We launched in October 2016 by establishing a board and going after a 501c3 status. We finalized a 5-year plan and set out to raise funds to do this work. These graphs tell a story visually of how our work impacted the region. What are we measuring? Projects equals opportunity pipeline activity in each reporting year. We hovered in the mid-50s in years 2 and 3, shot up in year 4, and again in this past year. That pipeline activity rose significantly. It's a funnel. The more activity that goes into this pipeline, the greater the likelihood that we'll have more wins. Sometimes these projects are years in the making, and we're so happy to report double-digit wins. Business visits. The rise is consistent with expectations. I was added to the team in June of 2020, and between Vicki Pratt and I, the number of business visitations jumped. Our website continues to be a huge driver for pipeline activity, and we get calls all the time from folks who've been on our site and are looking to do business in our region. A huge shout out to our marketing manager, Julie Oliver, for all of her work on this site and for her work to driving traffic to the site. An economic development organization can spend a lot of money marketing and getting very little in return. We've very consciously and strategically engaged with groups and joined organizations where we have direct access to our target audience members. CARW, for instance, is the commercial real estate group in the state. NAIOP is an association for commercial industrial developers, and all of these are lead generators. The Midwest Food Processing Association allows us to have direct access to food processors from across the Midwest. We rarely pass up an opportunity to get in front of a group that represents businesses. Research and education is also a key part of what we do because data drives smart economic development efforts. And we've been focused on bringing best practices and relevant information to our municipal leaders and to our businesses since our inception. In the past year, we strategically engaged with UW-Whitewater to have them complete housing studies for both counties and break out the data by municipality, and then overlay the traditional market study data of a housing study with ALICE data. And for those of you not familiar with ALICE, that means asset limited, income constrained, and employed. That data by municipality to get to the real issue, the housing shortage in each community and the cost your working households can actually afford to pay for that housing. We brought in subject matter experts to talk about cybersecurity concerns, to present on rural initiatives designed to stimulate investment, helping leaders understand how to use TIF to stimulate more housing development, and of course, brought in the guy who wrote the book, Winning the War for Talent, twice. Came in again last week, now to help all of our employers to help change their tactics. We've also worked with UW-Whitewater to complete a wage by occupation by county study to look at the over 60% of our employed residents that leave the county for work. Turns out it's because of the money. We host events called Conversations with Thrive EV quarterly. The goal here is to host a sponsored event. They then invite their customers and suppliers to the event. And of course, we invite all the businesses we work with, retention and attraction targets to attend. We've gotten projects out of these events and connected business owners to one another and stimulated lots of good interactions that otherwise may not have happened. Not an immediate win, but it's incredibly important. There are a number of times I've gotten a call from someone who's been at one of these events who now want to talk about an investment opportunity. Since September 1st, 2021, we've had a very active project pipeline. We've managed 46 active projects so far. We've also secured 2 new investors. Proud to say both Premier Bank and the Village of Palmyra have now joined as investors. Also, since September 1st, 2021, we've launched our first ever public-private partnership, Jefferson County Revolving Loan Fund. It's funded at $1 million. Jefferson County put in half, and the remainder came from Exonia Bank, Fort Community Credit Union, Premier Bank, Bank First, and Avistar Credit Union. We're now also managing Fort's Community Credit Catalyst Revolving Loan Fund program. And it took forever, but we wrote the program, secured the resources, and have now launched the Heartland Housing Initiative. The Heartland Housing Initiative provides housing development consultants to work with municipalities to get them in a position where they can attract housing developers to their community. This is a big deal, as frankly, in most communities in rural Wisconsin, building homes that the residents can afford simply doesn't pencil out for the builders. This program is designed to help municipalities figure out steps that they can take to change that. And yes, we've also had some wins since September. Just last month, we did 2 ribbon cuttings with these 2 businesses. We've run a successful 5-year fundraising campaign in 2021 and used the draft 2022-2026 strategic plan to drive that effort. Typically, that plan would go through a final revision in November of 2021 and be brought forward to the Thrive Economic Development and the JCEUC boards at their December meetings for adoption. That didn't happen in 2021, and here's why. In early November, Dodge County notified us that they intended to execute their termination clause, meaning that we'd be losing that county government support as of last week. We gained several new investors throughout the campaign, including 3 new businesses from Dodge County. 2 of these business people are now on the Thrive Economic Development Board of Directors. And when the board met in December, as they planned to do final revisions to the strategic plan, it was recommended that the plan should be pared down to 3 to 4 manageable, doable goals. There has also been pressure from municipal leaders who invest in JCEDC for the staff to be involved in a variety of community development related initiatives. And there's a need to clarify measures of success that both boards can agree to. And at the end of this month, key members from both boards and I will participate in a strategic planning retreat. We're going to work with a facilitator to reach consensus on the goals of the organization and measures of success for these goals. Then both boards will have the opportunity to adopt a revised strategic plan and scope of work that reflects the outcome of this retreat. Finally, I just wanted to say thank you all for your support, and at this time, I welcome any questions.
No questions? Anybody? Apparently not. So, thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
The next report is Land and Water Conservation. Patricia Cicero.
Hello, everybody. I'm Patricia Cicero with the Land and Water Conservation Department. The overall goal of our department is to restore, improve, and protect the land and water resources in Jefferson County. The department has a work plan that is detailed in the Land and Water Resources Management Plan, which is a 10-year plan that was adopted last year. We also have a number of key roles in the county's comprehensive plan. The staff that works on our programming includes Kim Lykopoulos, who is our administrative specialist. She's been with us for 9 years now. Marissa Ullman is our water resource management specialist. She's been with us for just over a year. Joe Strupp is a resource conservationist who's been with us for 16 years. Josh Butteris is a resource conservationist who's been with us just for 7 months now. And Jerry Kokkonen was in our office for 19 years. He was our GIS and land use specialist, and he has since moved to our land information department. And I have been with the county for 23 years, and in 2019 became the department head. We get a number of funding from lots of different sources. It's all in the annual report that you were given. But I just want to highlight, we get staffing money from the Department of Agriculture. Last year we got over $151,000. And this year we're going to be getting over $188,000. We also get a Lake Monitoring and Protection Network grant from the Department of Natural Resources. We received that money for the first time last year, and we will continue to get it every year. It's just over $13,000. Our largest agricultural program that we implement is the Farmland Preservation Program. It's a tax credit program for farms that are following standards that protect both soil and water resources. And that program has approximately 600 participants encompassing over 119,000 acres. And the participation in that program provides approximately $901,000 in tax credits to those participants. Our office also implements a number of cost share programs. We get money from the Department of Agriculture to implement mostly agriculturally related conservation practices. We also get some money from the Department of Natural Resources to install some small projects that are within 1,000 feet of lakes or 500 feet of rivers and streams. Those include rain gardens and shoreline habitat gardens that are with native plants. And new last year, we started implementing a program with a DNR program in which municipalities and industries in the Rock River Basin provide us for funds with the purpose of implementing conservation practices that are going to reduce phosphorus loading to our waterways. And we developed a cover crop and pasture establishment program last year. And we did a good job last year, but I think we're going to do a lot better this year with our participation because we have a full year to implement that now. We also last year initiated work with 2 farmer-led groups. That includes the Jefferson County Soil Builders and the Rock River Regenerative Grazers. And those 2 groups were successful in getting Department of Agriculture grants. And we're specifically going to be working with the Soil Builders as their fiscal agent and collaborator to help them with the programs that they want to implement this year. Our office also implements an agricultural conservation easement program. So that program is in which development rights on farmland are purchased or donated, and that means the farmland won't be developed in the future, so it keeps agricultural land in working agriculture. And last year, we partnered with American Farmland Trust and a number of other counties and land trusts in the area in which we're going to be able to get access to money for future acquisitions of conservation easements in the next 5 years. Our office also does a number of water resource programming. We provide technical assistance to landowners, water resource groups, local governments, and county departments. We expanded our role last year in aquatic invasive species programming due to the funding we are getting from the Department of Natural Resources. We also implement a volunteer stream and lake monitoring program in which we train volunteers to get that vital water quality information on our water resources. We also do site visits to landowners who live along waterways to give them technical advice, sometimes access to cost sharing, to help them with practices that are going to control erosion and prevent water quality pollution or protect water quality. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And as always, my office is open if you have any future questions on land and water resources. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Cicero?
Oh, here.
Are you doing anything with the cities with them, with phosphoric acid that they've been putting in the city water systems the last 25 years?
Phosphoric acid, or do you mean total phosphorus that they're discharging into waterways?
Yeah, phosphoric acid. They're putting that into their city water systems so the pipes don't break down, so the metals don't break down.
Oh, no, our
You
office.
said you're doing something with phosphorus.
So the phosphorus programming that we do, the municipalities pay in money to because they have to reduce their phosphorus outputs from the wastewater treatment into waterways. And so I think what you're talking about is the drinking water pipes, which we do not get involved with that. Sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, that's where the phosphate problem is actually coming from.
So I guess I need to look into that some more. I don't really know the chemistry about the acid you're talking about that then leads to total phosphorus pollution.
All right, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, thank you so much. Our third and final presentation tonight is for the the Register of Deeds, Stacy Hoffman.
Well, I work with zoning often, so that's okay.
Well, then that too.
Yeah, what the heck. So, welcome tonight. My name is Stacy Hoffman. I'm the Register of Deeds. I think a few of you met me the last time we just had a introduction with the department heads. But for those of you who didn't, I thought I'd give you just a quick little brief explanation about what the Register of Deeds is. So, we are a county constitutional officer. We get elected every 4 years when the president gets elected. And we're elected by the whole county. So I know some of you get elected by your districts. We have to be elected by the masses, just like Audrey. So the ROD office has been around since 1836, way before we were a state. And we became a permanent part of county government in the Constitution in 1848. And as our name implies, we are the Register of Deeds. We record deeds. Anything that has to do with land transactions goes through our office. Well, that's part of what we do. And the other part of what we do is with vital records. So your birth, marriage, death, divorce certificates now are in our office. Those are all issued and maintained in our office, and all our records are permanent. So we keep them for forever. So if you ever want to come and check something out, come down to our, basically it's our library. We have books back to the 1836s for some of the land transactions, and the 1840s for marriages. So they go back a long way. We're here for genealogy. We're here for title searches. Sometimes people have to go back to the beginning of time when they want to sell a business, when they have to prove some easements, which is a whole big, I don't know if anybody followed any of the legislation, but there's a lot to do with easements right now. Easements expired after 40 years, so a bunch of people lost some rights, and now it's going to be reversed probably. So stay tuned for that. The one other thing I forgot to mention, we also record all the DD-214s. So we also work with Yvonne a little bit. Anytime somebody is discharged from military, they should come and record their document in our office, and then we will work with Yvonne on getting that recorded for you. So basically, we're the history of the county. That's about all there is to us. We're very quiet at the end of the hall, and most people just ignore us because we're small and quiet. But I hope you all had a chance to look at my annual report. I'm a broken record. We are awesome. Our office is awesome. We make money. Last year was unbelievable. We recorded more documents than we have in probably the last 18 years. It's been keeping us busy. However, this year, 2022, not so much. So remember the last 2 years when I come and ask for money some other time? Remember how awesome they were? Yeah, remember that next time. On January 3rd, I lost my longtime Chief Deputy, Mary Beth Haney. I didn't lose her, she retired. But because we have always worked on cross-training all our staff, it was a pretty seamless transition for Kayla to step up into her position as a Chief Deputy. We did hire Chris from the Clerk of Courts, and we do have a part-time person in our office also. So we're making things work. It's a little bit slower than it used to be, but everybody is doing such a fantastic job. We have been using all the technology we can to make things easier for our staff. Last year we implemented a Pintegrity program that will tie a parcel number, a legal description, and an address to a person's property, which is really nice because most people don't know what their parcel number is, or they don't know what their legal description is, but they do know what their address is, right? So for searching, it's making it a lot easier for our searchers. Because I have this awesome staff, I've also been able to do a few other things, not only for the county, for our office, but also for the state. I serve on the Wisconsin Public Records Board. Currently, we are in the midst of updating the records retention schedule. This is going to be very helpful when we move out of this courthouse during the remodel project. What records do we need to keep? How long do we need to keep them? How do we dispose of them? Some things are confidential. They can't just be tossed in the garbage. Some things have to be offered to the Wisconsin Historical Society. So hopefully that's going to be done like around mid-July. It won't be approved yet, but at least it'll be a guideline for us to go by. I also serve on the Wisconsin County's Board of Directors. And if any of you have had the opportunity to do anything with Wisconsin counties, you know they have some really smart people there. So if you need help from Wisconsin counties, either, have Ben help you, I'd be happy to help. They're just an awesome group. But the two things I'm really working on this year, other than the retention schedule, is there's a couple pieces of legislation that are going to affect our county. So one of them is called Daniel's Law. We talked about this last year, I believe, at my annual report. This is a law that Judge Salas had a attorney who was not happy with how she came out with her verdict for her client, or his client. He dressed up as, I believe, like a FedEx driver, went to the house, shot and killed her son, Daniel, thus Daniel's Law, and also majorly injured her husband. She said if he had not found the public records, which he happened to have on a folder in his seat before he killed himself, he wouldn't have been able to find her. But he could go to the public record, find out where she lived, and thus they believe that any judge should have their records shielded from their records. Well, I guess that's good. I mean, that's nice, but how do we do it? The federal legislation says each state has to come up with their own legislation to do it. And if you don't do it within 72 hours, there's penalties, $10,000. I'm not sure if it's per day, but per incident that you don't shield that record. So it could be costly to the county. Other states have gone ahead and quick passed some legislation to get it through. However, they forgot to talk to the county people to see how it can happen. So how do we shield the GIS? How do we shield the Register of Deeds records? How do we shield CCAP, the court records? Because those have addresses in. How do we shield tax rolls and tax records? Because these all are public record that everybody has the right to see. How do we do it? So this is one of the things that we're working on with Wisconsin counties and then all our business partners. And hopefully we'll come up with something good for Wisconsin that works. The other thing about that is Florida implemented this, and it started out with judges. They now have 126 different protected classes, and it goes to not just law enforcement, but it could be teachers, and it can be medical emergency room people, doctors. So it can be big. So it's not going to be just a handful of judges. It's going to be big once it actually happens. This kind of was on a hold a little bit, but now with the Roe versus Wade decisions, and people are sitting outside the judges' homes. There's people asking for this to get moving and have it passed federally. So once that happens, we better be prepared to make sure what we have is going to work. And the other piece of legislation that the Register of Deeds Association is keeping a really close eye on is called discriminatory covenants. And what this is back in the early 20s, and probably even earlier than that, there'll be something in the land record that says no person of color, race, gender, certain things can live in this subdivision or on this property. You can't sell to anybody like that. Well, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act said that's not legal. You can't do that anymore. And then in 1968, the Fair Housing Market said, nope, that's not legal. Even though it's in the records, it doesn't mean anything. So basically, it means nothing. But if you're a person of color or of a certain religion, that's harmful or hurtful to you to see that on a record. So the real estate agencies across the state decided they should create legislation that says that I know we can't shield it, because if we shield that information or we redact it, I can't sell your house. So we don't want to do that. But we do want to allow you as the new buyer or the seller to record a document in the Register of Deeds office that says something to the effect of, I know this is out there, I don't like it, I don't want to associate it with my property. Not a bad thing. I mean, that sounds good to everybody, right? But the realtors want it to be recorded for free. At first I thought, well, how many are we going to have? 10? That's not going to hurt Jefferson County. Well, I did a study of our books and just pulled one book from 1920, and 7.5% of our documents have some type of reference in them. So during the time frame that this could possibly happen, there's about 30,000 records. And if I take, with my new staff, it takes them about 10 minutes from start to finish, from recording a document to the very end of the document. That would cost this county about $739,000. Now, if you use my more seasoned staff, we could cut that time in half. 5 minutes per document is still, $370,000. So what our association is presenting, or is fighting, I shouldn't say I don't want to fight it, because I don't want to sound like we don't care. We understand this is not nice things in the history of our records. But we want to propose that if you want to record that, that's great, but you should have to pay for it, like anything else. You pay for it. If you feel that good or that bad about it, I guess just to say, you should have to pay for that to be recorded. So we were able to stop the legislation this past term, but from what I understand, the realtors will be bringing it back, and we are going to be fighting that again. If the county thinks I should step back on that and don't want me to, I understand. But as an association, they will be fighting that. Let's see. Is there anything else I'd like to tell you that I think you'd want to know? I don't want to bore you anymore with my stuff, so I'm going to just thank you guys. And I appreciate all the support you guys have given us. We've been able to do a lot of projects, and I will be having an RFP coming shortly. It just got posted yesterday to do more back indexing. The more back documents we have online for people to view and purchase, the more money the county makes. And it will also help with our move once we have to move all our books out of here. Like I said, my books are permanent, and some of them weigh 30 to 40 pounds each. So they'll be moved, and we have to figure out what to do with them. So do you guys have any questions for me? Somebody say something nice. No hard questions. Mr. Gross.
Any questions for Ms. Hoffman?
Yes, please do come visit. If none of you have been in my office, I mean, people are always amazed when they come in and see the books. I mean, handwritten. You have to be able to read cursive to work in my office, which is an odd thing to have to say, but young kids don't know how to do that now. So come on, visit. Thank you.
I think Yvonne has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say something nice.
Oh,
As the veteran service officer, I want to say how important the Register of Deeds office is, not only for registering our DD 214s, but on a regular basis. Stacy and her staff help me help veterans by researching marriages and births. I have to, when we put in a benefit package for a veteran, if they've been married before, we have to go back and like list their entire, all their marriages and divorces. And my top one is 10 marriages and divorces that we had to record for one person. And without Stacy and her staff, I could not do it.
Thank you, Yvonne.
There, something nice.
Thank you.
Okay, which brings us to committee reports and the Finance Committee, Supervisor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution number 2022-14, approving initial resolution for revenue bond financing for Bug Tussle 1 LLC. The initial resolution authorizes Jefferson County to participate with other counties in an intergovernmental agreement to finance a project for the acquisition, construction, and installation of certain telecommunication infrastructures for the purpose of providing wireless internet and telephone communication services to businesses, governmental units, and residents of rural communities where such services currently unavailable or prohibitively expensive. Fond du Lac County will serve as the conduit bond issuer for revenue bond financing for the borrower, Bug Tussle 1 LLC, which includes costs for projects located in Jefferson County in the amount not to exceed $20 million. This resolution reflects Jefferson County's intent to participate in revenue bond financing for Fond du Lac County, serving as the issuing county, issuing revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $240 million, of which $20 million would be on the behalf of and guaranteed by Jefferson County, and the remainder guaranteed by other participating counties. Bug Tussle 1 and its parent company, Hilbert Communications, will have the primary obligation to pay debt service on the bonds. Each participating county will require to guarantee the payment of its proportionate share of the bonds should the borrower fail to make payments. The initial resolution also reflects Jefferson County's intent to proceed with negotiations of the related agreements necessary to the financing, including the intergovernmental agreement, guaranteed agreement, reimbursement agreement, and facility access agreement. These agreements are expressly conditioned upon final approval by the county board by means of a final resolution at a future meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. This initial resolution expressly states that the bonds will never constitute an indebtedness of the county or charge against its credit or taxing powers, and that all county costs in connection with the issuance of the bond will be paid by the borrower, Bug Tussle 1 LLC, and its parent corporation, Hilbert Communications. In addition, Jefferson County will receive 40 basis points annual guarantee fee from the borrower based on the amount of the guarantee provided. The Jefferson County Finance Committee approved this resolution at its meeting on April 7, 2022, and recommended for the county board for approval. I'm looking for the fiscal note. Is there one? Thank you. Fiscal note. The initial resolution singles Jefferson County's intent to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Fond du Lac County and has no fiscal impact at this time. The final resolution authorizes Jefferson County to enter into the governmental agreement and authorizes the issuance of the $20 million revenue bonds as security for the agreement will be voted on at the I think we need to make a correction here. It'll be the July County Board meeting. The July 12th, 2022 County Board meeting. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second. Okay, that's a motion by Supervisor Jones, a second by Supervisor Backlund. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? I've been advised this requires a roll call vote, so you can please vote.
We have 27 yes, 1 no, and 2 absent.
And the next resolution, Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution number 2022-15, authorizing the county administrator to negotiate and execute an option to purchase county-owned property with Nestle Purina. A strategic objective of Jefferson County is to support and facilitate the retention and expansion of existing businesses in the county. Jefferson County Economic Development Consortium staff, along with other partners, have been working with Nestle Purina, a longstanding business located in the city of Jefferson, on capital investment options that may add to its employment based in Jefferson County. One option discussed was the purchase by Nestle Purina of a parcel of county-owned property to be potentially used as a location for added storage capacity if needed. This parcel is located south of the county highway facility on County Highway W and is approximately 25 acres. This resolution authorizes the county administrator to enter into the option to purchase real estate with Nestle Purina to provide for future storage needs. The option to purchase would require Nestle Purina to pay the county $5,000 in year 1, $5,250 in year 2, and $5,500 in year 3. If Nestle Purina exercises the option to purchase in year 1, the price per acre would be $20,000. If exercised in year 2, the price per acre would be $21,000, and if exercised in year 3, the price per acre would be $22,000. If this option of purchase is exercised during the growing season, Nestle Purina will pay the current leasee of this property for any resulting reasonable business losses. They also guarantee that the current leasee egg producer is made whole if the option is executed any time during the growing season. The Finance Committee considered the parameters of this agreement in closed session on April 7, 2022, and recommending forward this resolution to County Board by approval of a vote of 5-0. On the bottom of the page, just for correction's sake, the PIN number listed there has an error in it. The correct PIN number is 2410614 instead of 164, 1524001. The yearly option will be, fiscal note, the yearly option will be deposited in the capital project funds. If the option is executed, the Finance Committee will determine where the proceeds of the sale will be allocated. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Who had the second? George Shackle is second. Any discussion on that motion? Mr. Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of points I want to make. I have a couple of problems with this particular resolution and the sale, and part of what I want to do is to help inform some of the new members because there's other information, there's other considerations regarding this particular land, which is part of the county farm. And my first point that I want to make is the soils that we're looking at in this 25 acres are largely either hydric or partly hydric, former wetlands, and the areas half of it or so is tiled already to control the wet condition there. So it's not particularly suitable for building. We've seen that in other places. There was some problem with the highway shop. Other parts of the farm are also, across the road are also wet and require some amendment for use, even for farming. There's a rental income off of this. So the rental income that we are currently getting is $290 a year per acre. For the entire rented farm area of the county farm is 346 acres. So that amounts to a little over about $100,000 in rental income per year. This particular 25-acre site, of course, would be a portion of that. One of my concerns about losing and chunking off bits of the county farm is it leaves the remainder less desirable, and I think the rental income from that would would decline likewise. So that's a second concern. Third concern is to consider and remember that farming is also an economic benefit to the county. It's not just empty land that's being used for nothing. It does provide income and other benefits. I think we also need to consider the county's position and its value in appreciating agricultural lands. We do go through a lot of effort, like with the comprehensive plan, to provide for protection of our farmlands. And that's been something we've kind of hung our hat on for a while. And I think we need to consider that at this time, especially considering the future value of farmland. There's a lot of impacts that are currently occurring and are on the horizon, negative impacts on farmland. Just as a personal note, I just worked last Wednesday, I think it was, a whole day at the fourth grade farm tour. It was at the Coots Farm over on Will Road. And what I did during that time was greet the students and give them a demonstration using an apple, showing them how valuable and scarce farmland is worldwide. And so I kind of hate to, I will have difficulty voting for this. I probably will vote against this because I don't want to be hypocritical with the time that I spent with these fourth graders who were really wonderful and open little minds there. I think that there are probably other ways that we can help local businesses with their economic development efforts and show our appreciation for their having their business in our county. I think this is not particularly an inventive or innovative use of land, is to put some warehouses on prime farmland, or at least high quality farmland, high quality, especially considering the rental value. So I have one question here for probably for Ben, and that is, if this constitutes a revenue loss for the Land and Water Conservation Department, and that changes their budget, would this amount to a budget amendment, or would that be something that we'd consider in the future? So those are my considerations. I appreciate your time.
At this point in time, I don't believe would be considered a budget amendment, strictly because what you're voting on tonight specifically would be an option. So that right now the revenue stream would continue to come in from a leasing standpoint that would be allocated then to the Land and Water Department. At the point in time the option is executed to purchase that property, we would need to finalize that, and that would be potentially offsetting that revenue loss within that department, and that could be also be reduced from a contingency, and then future budget years that'd be allocated accordingly going for that and offset with additional tax levy dollars potentially.
Okay, anyone else? Supervisor Jones.
I guess I'll try to answer Supervisor Christensen some of his concerns. The section of the 25 acres is, out of the 300 plus, is sort of isolated by itself. And as far as we understand, there's no proposal for buildings. That is mostly for storage of vehicles. And, you know, it keeps the value of the main block of farmland in whole. We're not chopping it up and making it less valuable as a whole. The price that's been offered, everything I know about the price of farmland, seems like a very fair price. This is a long-standing industry in the community, and we'd like to keep them in this community and the county with their jobs. And, you know, in the long run, this would keep, and they hope to expand, I believe. There's some things that we're not at liberty to say. And also the land would be located along the highway, so it makes easy access for this industry to use for their storage, for their vehicles and stuff like that, and without driving through downtown Jefferson and causing problems of that nature. Thank you.
Anyone else on this topic? Hearing none, Supervisor Kennard?
Yeah, I just checked the GIS mapping and I don't see any environmental corridor out there or anything, so doesn't appear to be any wetlands or anything that's been mapped that would indicate a severe problem, I guess.
Okay, anyone else? This would be a roll call up. Supervisor Backlund.
I just got one quick question. So if these, obviously the money they're paying is for the lease option, so there is no loss because the land is leased. They're just paying for the option. Is that my understanding of this?
Yeah, so the ongoing lease will still be in place during the term of the options. The option is to hold the right to purchase a property if they deem it necessary for the business operation.
Okay, so back to Mr. Christensen's point, actually this would be an increase in revenue because we get the lease and we get the money from the option.
Yeah. Supervisor Gulick.
Thank you.
I'm still learning too. So.
That's okay. Thank you very much. My question is, if it's for storage of vehicles, how will vehicles be accessing this property? Will it be directly off of Highway 26? Or will there be other like highways amendments that'll be needed to provide access for them? Thank you.
So just to the north of here is the current highway shop, the new highway shop. And so the parcel in question is approximately right here. The intention is there would be an easement that we work on because this property is actually one place that they would be responsible to build a lane to our main road system that is here. That's a safety issue. If you've been in that area, there's some steep topography right along here, and we also be very careful. We have a nice bike trail there that's heavily used, so we don't want to have like two different interchanges of truck traffic between our highway shop and potentially this business's truck traffic. So they would go through there. They would then follow south on County Highway W until it meets up with Business 26 that is on the south end, and this is the interchange they would go through. To go to their main business, they could even take Collins Road, which they would not prefer to do at this point in time, or come back down South Business 26 to hit their business right in here, in this Nestle Purina. And this company does a lot of things with Opportunities Incorporated. Opportunities Incorporated, which is in Fort Atkinson, does most of their packaging. So it's a just-in-time kind of supply chain. So it'll go right south on there.
Yes.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question. Is that the access on 26, is that Business 26 in town or 26 outside of town where you drew it up there?
This one right here. So part to the west of 26 is in the town of Jefferson. Until you hit this line, that's all in city limits. So this farmland is all in city limits right now. And then this is South Business 26 going into, here's Walmart right here for familiarization. So the south end is the city of Jefferson.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Smith.
And I assume if we were to vote for this, that we would then be committed to sell the land if they chose to purchase it. That we're not able to back out of it, you know. So at this point, we'd be committing to sell it. So if they chose the option or decided to take it, yes.
Anybody else? If not, this will be a roll call.
We have 19 yes, 9 no, and 2 absent.
Okay, so the motion's passed with majority. Brings us to planning and zoning. Supervisor Jekyll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report to the honorable members of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee, having considered petitions to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County, filed for public hearing held on November 28, 2021 and April 21st, 2022, as required by law pursuant to Wisconsin statutes. Now therefore having been given and being duly advised of the wishes of the town boards and persons in the areas affected, hereby makes following recommendation. Approval of petitions as listed, dated this 25th day of April 2022, Blaine Paulson, Secretary. And that moves us on to the ordinance number 2022
Three.
Amending the official zoning map of Jefferson County. I move to amend the map as presented.
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Kennard. Any discussion? Yes.
I need to abstain for potential conflict of interest, so maybe I shouldn't be seconding it, maybe somebody else should.
I think Supervisor Paulson then will second. So, any discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Brings us to appointments by the county administrator, Mr. Waymeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is all on page 18 of your packet. By virtue of the authority vested in me under section 59.18, parent 2, parent B of the Wisconsin statutes, I respectfully request a confirmation of the following appointments as printed in your board packet tonight. I respectfully request a confirmation of those appointments.
Motion to confirm.
And the second was Supervisor Backman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Brings us to appointments by the county board chair. Those are located on page 19 and 20 of your packet. I believe you should have all had access to those for about a week. So I would entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Ms. Supervisor Paulson, second by Supervisor Backlund. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Appointments by the Human Service Board. Mr. Jones.
By virtue of the authority vested in the Human Service Board under Section 3.06 sub 1 sub G of the County Board Rules, the Human Service Board hereby requests County Board's confirmation of the following appointments. Alice Merck, Watertown, Wisconsin, to the Aging and Disability Resource Center Advisory Committee, ADRC, for a 3-year term ending July 1, 2025. And B, Carol Battenberg, Johnson Creek, Wisconsin, to the Nutrition Project Council for a 3-year term ending May 10th, 2025. Mr. Chair, I request confirmation of these appointments.
Do we have a second? Supervisor Paulson. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Which brings us to public comment of a general nature. And I believe we have two. First is Bert Backlund of Jefferson. And it is 3.
Okay. I hope it won't be that long. I just want to talk a little bit, and I know our MIS does a wonderful job, and they have a lot of things going, but the rollout of the new kind of security, it kind of caught me off guard. You know, they implemented it, and they did it at a time of transition. And I was in the business for 27 years with the federal government, so I get things that go on, but you know, it's kind of hard when other people are other supervisors are saying, hey, can you check? Because I was able to get in fine. Not initially, but you know, when there's emails there that says, hey, if you're having a problem, show up early, and it's in an email, but if you can't get into your email, you would have never known that came up. So I'm not certain what going forward is, but for me, it would have been nice to have a little bit of foreknowledge that this was coming and what was how this was going to impact us. I don't know how many this impacted, but it was just a little bit of concern on me how it kind of rolled out. I think it may be a little more information up front that this was coming and it wouldn't have hit us so hard. So anyhow, I'm not necessarily faulting MIS, but hopefully they could have had a little bit better communication process, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. The second is Walt Christensen from town of Koshkanon. And again, 3 minutes.
Thank you. It didn't occur to me to use this microphone rather than my own, so thanks, Kurt. I want to address mainly the zoning committee. Unfortunately, there's one member that's not here tonight, but also kind of bring other, especially new members, up to speed and think about this zoning issue that's of a concern to me, and especially the A2 zone and the conditional use. The new draft definition for agricultural tourism that was circulated to the towns and was then brought back to the committee. It was circulated to the towns, and I was at the meetings of Sumner and Koshkanon where it was discussed, and I did answer a few questions. Basically, the townships there were happy with the idea. We're not concerned about any of the language there. And I assumed that it would be fine with the committee. Unfortunately, the committee postponed decision on that and asked the department to, and Blair Ward to look at it and in a different way, a different light, and maybe be more restrictive. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't at that meeting, so I didn't hear it directly, but I understand that there was some additional instructions to Matt and Mr. Ward. And so I was thinking about that too, since I'd already kind of stuck my neck out in these township situations and more or less advised them that they would be on good footing if they supported it. I don't really like the idea of having to go back and say, well, I guess we made a mistake, we're going to start over here. I took a look at that definition again after I'd looked at it back in January, and I offered for Matt and Blair that I would try my hand at improving it if it looked like it needed improvement. But actually, after I took a close look at it and read it several times, that new definition for agricultural tourism seems to really do all the work that we wanted to do to allow a certain particular unanticipated use to go forward. And I think it's unfortunate that it's getting muddied up here. I think it's pretty clear, it's well written, and it does all the work that we want to do. So my request for the zoning committee is to leave the change, the new definition as it is, and approve that. And then do not add event center. I think that gets us into, new difficulties that will lead to uncertainty by the townships that would have to either abide by it or approve it at all. So that's what I really want to say. I think that the new definition is excellent, and we have two professionals who worked hard on it, Matt Zangle, Blair Ward, and I think it should go forward. So thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. And that's it for the registered public comment of a general nature. Do we have any announcements or? Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And the second one, Mr. Backlund. All in favor of adjournment? Say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.